Isfet Archives has adult language and violence and is not suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised. Isfet Archives is a Creative Typo entertainment production. If you enjoy this show, we invite you to support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Creative Typo. All levels of membership include ad-free listening, and our binge tier includes access to this complete season. Thank you for listening.
Chapter 16, Lost in Libya.
Now that we've kinda covered the dragon, what about the hunter?
The hunter is a difficult topic because no living chronicler has confirmed its existence. It is frustrating for a chronicler when they attempt to describe something that has no factual data to support it.
But you are certain it exists.
The statistical probability of the hunter's existence is very high. I personally believe that the probability is too high to be ignored.
Okay, then let's start with the basics, I guess. Why do you call it the hunter?
It is purported that the creature hunts sentients for an unknown purpose. All sentients.
Like a serial killer?
In a manner. One large difference. The hunter hunts entire groups of sentients at a time.
Entire groups? I don't understand.
Throughout history, there are thousands of documented cases of entire groups of people disappearing without a trace. In many of these cases, I believe the hunter is the entity to blame.
It seems like we would have heard about a large group of people just going missing.
I believe you have.
What do you mean?
You were raised in the Midwest territory of the United States. You likely have heard the story of the Roanoke colony, a group of people that disappeared without a trace. There were no signs of combat. Dinners were left prepared on tables. No corpses. No signs of invasion or rapid evacuation. A group of people simply vanished.
And you believe that the hunter is responsible for their disappearance?
Yes. Stories very similar to the Roanoke colony exist throughout the world. Similar events have taken place in Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, and South America. Entire villages disappear without explanation.
Hastings, you're beginning to sound a bit like a conspiracy theorist.
Maybe. But what if there was a sentient being that could hunt without leaving a trace? Something that enjoys the hunt. It lives for the hunt. It treats the hunt as a ritual, leaving a mark after each successful hunt is complete.
That's a scary thought, but I don't see how a creature like that could exist today. Those are all old-timey examples from before there was the internet or cell phones. I think someone would notice if an entire neighborhood of people went missing now.
Not every nation has access to the internet. There are many countries in other parts of the world where a village of people could disappear. And no one would likely know for months or years. And there are examples of large groups of people disappearing without a trace in modern-day society. Airplanes disappear mid-flight. Ships vanish without an emergency call or evidence of capsizing.
I hadn't thought about those. But there totally could be logical explanations for those kinds of events. So, a creature no one has ever seen coming in and just murdering an entire group of people with no trace still seems like a bit of a stretch.
There are many that agree with you on that point. September is one of them. However, I would like to remind you that there could be a logical explanation for every Isfet event that occurs around you.
Point taken. So, why do you think that there's only one creature. You call it the hunter instead of the hunters. It seems more likely that it would be a group of entities working together. And if it is only one hunter, it seems to suggest that the creature can live forever. And, does it hunt to eat? How does it sustain itself?
Those are very intuitive questions.
Thank you.
I believe it is more likely to be one entity because a race of entities would be easier to discover after so many centuries. I also think a creature like that would eventually hunt its own kind in order to make the hunt more dangerous. And I do believe the creature lives forever. I have theories about its life cycle, but that is one of the things I would like to learn about it, should I ever meet it.
Hastings, you are so weird. You just told me all the reasons we should hope to never meet the hunter, and then you say you want to ask it about its life cycle?
How else would we learn about it?
Have you never heard what happens to the curious cat?
If you are speaking of the proverb, curiosity killed the cat, then yes. It was first referenced in written form by an English playwright in the 16th century. However, I fail to see how that correlates with the hunter's life cycle. Unless you are referencing something else, then no. I have not heard what happens to the curious cat.
Yeah, I was talking about the never mind. So anyway, what's next? Is there anything possibly less horrific?
I could tell you about the Bloodborne. They are less horrific, in a sense.
Hastings entered Chronicler Dean's private chambers. He noticed the way Dean considered the 3 heavy texts as he set them on his desk. Neither chronicler spoke for several minutes. This was not uncommon among chroniclers. Words were a gift and were not to be taken lightly. Many chroniclers would go years without speaking. Among the chroniclers, Hastings was a perfectly symmetrical stroke of ink on a blank parchment. He spoke freely and often. In his earlier days, other chroniclers chalked the behavior up to his young ambitions and inexperience. As he grew older, his speech did not lessen, it simply wizened. He was, by all accounts, a paradox within the order. A chronicler whose gift of gab should have rendered him an outcast, but whose unparalleled mastery in anomaly control had earned him a place of grudging respect. He was one of the most successful hunters within the chroniclers, a point that September strongly suggested avoiding when speaking with Emily. Hastings looked over Chronicler Dean. He couldn't tell if Dean was simply respecting the power of speech, or if he was measuring how to hide information in dialogue. The thought created an empty pit in his stomach. Never before had he considered another chronicler might be actively trying to manipulate him. Maybe Emily's paranoia was rubbing off, or maybe he had simply been naive.
You look well, Hastings.
Thank you, Chronicler Dean.
I should have visited you earlier. I apologize for my delay. I meant no disrespect.
I assume no disrespect, and thank you.
I see you are quick to utilize your newly granted access to the restricted archives.
Yes, thank you for granting that.
I saw no reason not to. Your contributions to the Anomaly Project have been invaluable. Your success in the field and leadership within the Isfet Archives alone are enough to grant you any access you may require.
Thank you, Dean. Your kind words are flattering.
All well deserved. Now, about these 3 texts.
Yes.
What is it that you're looking for?
Information regarding anomalies.
I understand. And what are you hoping to find in these?
I do not have any specific expectations for these particular texts. September had only just selected them as you entered the room. I have not had a chance to review their contents.
You do not know what these are?
I know as much as what you have said upon entering the archives. I know that September had what he called a hunch about them. And lastly, I glimpsed the titles while we walked here.
I understand.
Does my access to the restricted files not allow me access to these particular titles? As far as I am aware, I filled out the appropriate requests for the entirety of this collection. Is there something I am unaware of?
No. You are indeed allowed access to these under the approval of your priorly submitted access request.
All right. Chronicler Dean, is there something particular in these texts that has you interested in my research?
It is not so much about the contents of the books as it is the authors. The 3 texts were written by 3 separate authors. All of them were dragons.
Dragons? The books appear to be in remarkable condition to be that old. Or are there still dragons today?
These are not the original versions. They are copies of the original works, but they have been copied at near perfection. They were not translated or edited at any point during the duplication process. Their authenticity has been preserved as much as possible.
So the dragons are truly gone?
To the best of our knowledge, Hastings, the dragons are dead.
Could they not be in hiding? I know it is unlikely, but...
I do not believe they are in hiding. I believe they are gone.
Why do you believe that?
Because I believe the anomalies killed them.
The anomalies killed the entire dragon population.
I believe so. If you continue your research in the restricted archives, you will likely find dozens of texts that contain similar content to these 3 that have been selected for you here.
What do they contain? Why are they restricted?
There are different stories that each dragon has written about their own lives. Mind you, dragons were capable of lying, so it is assumed that many of these accounts have been exaggerated in one fashion or another. Dragons, much like humans, sought power and control. Some wrote about their vast wealth, others wrote about the amount of land they owned, and some wrote about the number of sentients they enslaved. One topic all the texts agree on is their disdain for the anomalies. As you may know, anomalies were not hunted by chroniclers and guides during those times. Many anomalies were able to age and come into full power. Chaos was said to have followed them like thunder after the lightning. The dragons frequently romanticize their enemies.
Do we know why the dragons hated the anomalies?
We believe there are several different reasons. The dragons believe themselves to be the top of the sentient order. This is noted in many of their writings. Anomalies threatened that belief. Some cultures worshipped Isfet and would seek out anomalies. They would treat anomalies as if they were demigods, and the dragons as if any other random dangerous beast. Other dragons saw anomalies as an abomination to be purged, a test of strength. They would hunt them as a rite of passage or a ritual of aptitude. Other dragons simply could not suffer the random Isfet events that continued to occur around them. There were many different reasons, but in the majority of the dragon texts, they confirm that anomalies were hunted by dragons.
Why do you believe the anomalies killed the dragons?
I have many reasons for believing that, but the most obvious reason is that the anomalies are still here, and the dragons are not.
That could be because of how the anomalies are born. It is not as if genetics play a role in their creation.
I wish not to speak more of this. If you truly have an interest in researching this topic, then I would like for you to make your own decision based on the content we have in the archives. I am interested in seeing how your research aligns with my own.
That is logical. I will continue to study. Thank you for the information you have given.
You are most welcome. But the texts are not why I collected you today.
What else would you like to discuss?
I have reviewed the report you submitted regarding the target in Chicago. I have concerns with the report.
Do you have questions I can answer to help alleviate those concerns?
It appears that there was no resolution to the Chicago case. There is no statement of elimination after Wisconsin. There is not a last name associated with Emily. There is no TAP event noted for Marcus. There is no last name associated with Marcus. Hastings, this is one of the most imprecise reports that I have received from you. I should like to know why.
During the altercation at the cabin in Wisconsin, it was mentioned that Marcus was not in fact an anomaly. It was believed by some that he was something else. At no point did I witness an Isfet tap from Marcus. Per protocol, I continued observing the young man. As of my departure from the United States, he still has not tapped.
Do you know where Marcus is?
I knew where he was as of my departure, but I cannot say with certainty that I know where he is right now.
Your report notes the Isfet tap for Emily at the cabin. Did you eliminate Emily after witnessing the event?
I delayed my elimination of Emily. While learning that Marcus may not be an anomaly, I did learn that he may be something else. I believe he is still a human and would fall under those protections, but I believe he is connected to Emily.
So, you left them both alive.
At that time, I believe it was best to preserve them both and study their connection. I removed them from a populated area and placed them where Emily's Isfet could not hurt any humans besides Marcus.
What was the connection that you believe Marcus had with Emily?
The name he was given was Harbinger.
Have you completed your research with Marcus?
While I did not satisfy my personal curiosity, September strongly urged me to abandon the current line of study and return here.
That was a wise suggestion from your guide.
I will tell him you said so.
And why did you omit these details from your report?
I wanted to research the archives for more information related to this possible connection before I made any additional notes in my report. I was in the process of that research when you personally called on me.
Hastings, I would like you to draft a more complete report without delay and deliver it directly to me.
I understand.
After that, I am retiring you from the Anomaly Project.
You are?
Yes, I believe that you have worked on that project for long enough. Your service has been exemplary. But I believe it is time for you to pursue a new, less dangerous path of study.
I would like to raise an objection to my retirement.
Your objection is noted. As it stands, I will give you 6 months to decide on which new path of studies you would like to pursue. During that period, I would consider it a personal favor if you committed time to researching the relationships between dragons and anomalies. You will maintain full access to the restricted archives, and you will be given priority for text distribution.
I thank you for the consideration.
Hastings, one last thing.
Yes?
Your retirement from the Anomaly Project will, of course, dissolve your working relationship with September.
The air that evening held a touch of magic, a serene perfection that only November in Libya could offer. The humidity was low and the stars were out in force. September drank in the beautiful evening air with a deep inhale and then continued his journey down the city street. The guide knew his way around the city and chose a less popular, though potentially more dangerous, path. He wanted to be alone with his thoughts. Guides were not simply knowledgeable about traversing the world around them. They were born with the inherent knowledge of what others should do next. Humans would label guides as supernatural. But as September walked, immersed in a sea of uncertainty, he felt anything but super. He leaned over to tuck some money under a man that was sleeping on the sidewalk. The man would use it to buy breakfast in the morning. The guide could still see paths so clearly, yet the issue with Emily and Marcus was so clouded. He could continue to guide Hastings, but that would only take them so far. What if Emily's path deviated from Hastings? That would mark the end of that solution. September stopped walking to collect a large shard of broken glass from the street. A young girl would cut her foot on the glass in the next day or two. He didn't know which girl or exactly when, just that it would happen. His contemplations continued as he cut into an alley. Marcus's path was also shrouded in mystery. Was this because the man was a harbinger, or because of his proximity to Emily? Were harbingers to anomalies the same as guides to everyone else? No, that seemed too organized for Isfet. He needed to stop searching for order in chaos. September's attention was yanked from his thoughts and landed on another man who was laying in the center of the alley. From the initial glance, the guide would not have known anything was wrong, but the death marker had formed above the stranger's head. With a temporarily renewed sense of purpose, September rushed toward the stranger. As he neared the man in the alley, September felt his visage change. He shifted into a woman in her mid-20s. The dying man called out to her in a whisper, naming her Purnima. Purnima had died young, leaving the man to a lifetime of sadness from which he had never recovered. Depression, self-loathing, apathy, and the drink all consumed his life as the years passed. The focal point of his life was based on one moment, the moment his wife, Purnima, died. September grabbed the man's hand and made several small, comforting exchanges with him before the poor fellow exhaled his final breath. Each death was very different, but in nearly all his experiences, the person died with their eyes open and locked on September. Sometimes those stares haunted him. September left the eyes open, as was his custom, and began to stand. Just as September was about to step away from the lifeless stranger, something odd caught his eye, compelling him to stoop down once more for a closer examination. The dead man had been stabbed several times, each meticulously placed to ensure a prolonged and agonizing death. These wounds were mortal in nature, but would have granted the man a grim window of 10 to 20 minutes before he would succumb to death. This was a trap. September turned to flee back the way he had first entered the alley, but a man now stood at the exit. September looked quickly toward the other end to find another person standing there. These were the same two that had followed him and Hastings on the day they landed at the airport. These were Contra agents, and they had staged a well-executed trap for a guide. Without hesitation, September burst into action. He didn't charge either of the Contra agents, but instead crossed quickly to the other side of the thin alley, stepped on the seat of a bicycle that was chained to a rack, and kicked off, launching himself halfway up the wall to a window ledge. 2 silenced gunshots rang out. The first bullet whizzed perilously close, embedding itself in the wall mere inches from September's left shoulder. The second bullet exploded through the window he was pulling himself towards. Glass showered down around him as he hoisted himself up. He crashed his elbow into the remaining fragments of the window, clearing his way. Another shot sounded, but September didn't stay outside long enough to see where it struck. He rolled onto a small end table that collapsed under his weight. By the time he had regained his feet, the footsteps of a Contra agent were echoing right below the window. They were fast. Fortunately, the apartment appeared to have been abandoned, and there were no residents inside to interrupt his escape. He rushed to the front door, swung it open, and slid into the dimly lit hall. His instincts told him where the stairwell would be, and he sprinted toward them. He went up, not down. The building next door was connected to this one by a short metal bridge. He charged up the stairs and scolded himself for being so out of shape. thighs burning, September burst through the roof access door and out into the evening air. He slid a large metal tool crate in front of the door, blocking it from opening, and then made his way to the bridge. He crossed over to the neighboring building and reached its stairwell before he began to hear a banging on the door from the previous roof. The crate appeared to be doing its job and buying him time. Slowing only slightly at the request of his legs, he made his way down the stairwell to the ground level and out into the street. September scanned the area until he locked eyes with one of the two agents. They were still back by the first building, but as their eyes locked with September, they wasted no time and were now running in his direction. September watched only long enough to see the agent radio something back to his partner before the guy ducked behind a vehicle and into the street. Thinking a quick apology to his already exhausted legs, he broke back into a sprint. September led the chase away from the first building, hoping to put a larger gap between the two agents. He slipped through a convenience store entrance and out the employees-only exit. He weaved through streets and alleys, but couldn't seem to lose the agent. Then he saw his chance. A green neon sign pointed to an old parking garage made of thick concrete walls. Vehicles were parked along the street in front of the building, and a short line of cars waited to enter the structure. September hustled toward the garage, keeping the vehicles on the road between him and the agent. He slid around the entrance security arm and jogged toward the stairs. He descended through the two lower levels to the bottom of the stairwell, well underground. He heard the patter of boots on the stairs above. That one agent was still on his trail. September maneuvered through the vehicles until he found an older car. He unscrewed the metal radio antenna from the top of the sedan. It wasn't ideal, but it was something he could use as a weapon. He crouched and made his way over to a Sprinter van, back near the stairwell. The agent would almost certainly pass this way. With his weapon poised and ready, September drew in measured, shallow breaths as the Contra agent finally made it to the bottom of the stairwell. The agent, oblivious to September's presence, attempted to radio something back to his partner, but the 3 stories of concrete and earth around them disrupted the signal. The agent continued his confident stride through the garage, drawing ever closer to the Sprinter van. September stopped breathing altogether, his heart pounding in his ears. The agent never saw September coming. The first strike from the metal antenna smacked the agent's face, causing him to cry out. He took 2 more blows to the face and neck before he dropped the gun and fell to the floor. One more strike from the antenna caused the thin metal weapon to bend. September discarded the now useless bent antenna and collected the firearm. The agent attempted to back away, but stopped after only a few feet. The antenna had struck one of his eyes and his nose. The man bled profusely, whimpering as he tried to gain his bearings. September confirmed the safety on the firearm was off, then pulled the trigger 2 times, firing rounds into the man's chest. Time slowed. September's visage changed for the second time in less than an hour. This time, he appeared as a young man. He looked down at the Contra agent with love and compassion.
Hey, big brother. It's okay. You're going to be okay. It's almost over, and you did such an amazing job. You protected humans from threats that most of them don't even realize exist. You trained and studied and practiced. I think you're the most amazing person I've ever known, and I'm proud that you're my older brother. Now relax. It's time to go home.
September fired one more round into the agent's forehead. The man's eyes remained open as his final breath escaped his lips. Just another ghost to haunt September's dreams. The guide tucked the gun into his jacket pocket and left the scene. It could be a while before the other agent found their way there, but September didn't want to risk it. He needed to go. Emily checked her mirror as she merged the rental car back onto eastbound Interstate 94. Once she was fully settled in her lane and the cruise control was set, she turned a portion of her attention to Marcus. He was still significantly hurt. She thought he should be resting, but instead, he was fiddling with a piece of rope that he had purchased from the sporting goods store.
What you working on?
I looked up how to tie knots, and I think I'm getting the hang of it.
Marcus, do you think that we will need to know how to tie knots?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think we need knots for the tent.
Probably not, but I would prefer to learn how to do this in the car rather than outside in the dark. Just in case.
Sure.
I don't know shit about camping.
Neither do I.
Hey, are you sure you don't want to just sleep in the car?
I think that might look strange. Two people just sleeping in a car, and we definitely don't want to attract any attention.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That makes sense.
I'm gonna get us off the highway in a little bit, and then we can find somewhere where we can pretend to be campers.
If we are putting up a tent, building a fire, and sleeping in sleeping bags, we aren't pretending to be campers anymore. We are campers.
That is a very good point.
And it's still really cold outside. You don't think that's going to seem weird?
People might think we look ridiculous, but I don't think that we're gonna look suspicious.
And if we freeze to death, it won't matter how we look.
You're so dramatic. We bought enough supplies to handle the cold for a couple nights. Long enough to stay off the grid until September and Hastings get back at least.
Yeah, I bet they're not freezing their asses off, are they?
You're fine.
Have you ever camped out in the woods?
I have. Once. With my friend and her parents when I was really young.
Oh my god, we're doomed.
Look, we both agreed that this was much safer than being in the city.
I know. But it was a lot more appealing after escaping the motel. Now I'm having second thoughts.
Speaking of the motel...
Yeah?
Did you know we would find those files there?
No, I didn't.
But you knew I would find something.
Yeah. In my vision, you found a treasure chest. Like an old school pirate one. You traded a toy that you had for something out of the chest. I think you got a map out of it.
Did you know something bad would happen?
Yes. I did. Sort of.
And you didn't tell me.
Well, I didn't know that the motel would sink into the ground.
But you knew something bad would happen.
I didn't know people were going to get hurt, if that's what you're asking.
But people did get hurt.
I know.
No, you obviously don't know. Those people died because of me.
No, they died because of me. I knew the risk. I take the responsibilities.
That's not how it works, Marcus.
And why not? Isn't that what you said? My Harbinger abilities are supposed to protect you.
Protect others from me.
Emily, we had to go there. There were no other options.
You don't know that.
But I did know that. I knew we needed what was in that chest.
There wasn't a chest. It was in your head, Marcus. You could have misinterpreted the vision. You could have killed us and God knows how many others.
But I didn't kill us. And we got away from that thing.
We barely got away, and that isn't even the point.
Well, Emily, what is the point?
You need to tell me what you see in your visions. Exactly. Don't leave things out. That way, I can make informed decisions about what to do with my powers.
Look, I might be your harbinger, but that doesn't make me your servant. I can make my own decisions about how to use my abilities.
Your powers are directly connected to mine. And my powers are the ones that are killing people. You can't simply make that decision and then expect me to be fine when my Isfet kills innocent people.
Well, Emily, you don't get to...
No, Marcus, my abilities are murdering people. Mine, not yours. They're on my conscience. And if you're not willing to work with me as a team, then you can leave. Maybe we can just take a breather on this, calm down a little.
Okay.
Why don't you open up those files and see what's inside? Let's find out if it really is a map.
Hastings is voiced by Adam Culbertson. Emily Swanson is voiced by Tisha Zang. September is voiced by Richard Collins. Chronicler Dean is voiced by Seamus Rodriguez. Marcus Baker is voiced by Nico Rodriguez and narrated by Michael Cole. Isfet Archives was written by Nico Rodriguez in collaboration with Tisha Zang. Isfet Archives is a Creative Typo Entertainment production. Find out more about our show at www.creativetypo.com.
A very special thank you to our executive producers from Patreon, Nick Mead and Patrick T. Arsenault.